I'm your host, Bill Rowan, along with the head coach of the men's basketball program at George Mason, Kim English. Coach, talk about what we're going to get to today. Of course, good news, 5-game winning streak. We'll hit all of those. We've got senior forward Josh Oduro as our player guest a little bit later on in the show. He's already in the house, so we're looking forward to talking to him. Also take a look ahead to Old Dominion and Coppin State games coming up this week as well, as you guys try to keep that winning streak going. But before we get to the winning streak and Josh and everything else, the last time we were here, we talked about you heading out to Missouri to go into the Hall of Fame. You have since done that. If you've seen the videos online and everything, just give us that experience of what that was like and what it meant for you to finally get up there and have to go through that. You said you were kind of not sure how you're going to feel when you got there.
I know now. I really want to stop talking about it. It was it was good. It was awesome. You know, some Mason supporters, Kathy McKay, Chris Durlack, Jacob the Bear, our in-house content creative
guru.
Yeah, they made the trip out there. It was awesome to see them. Some friends from college, a teammate of mine. It was a humbling moment. I think I was the least deserving on this stage. It was some state champions and former NBA players, and it was an incredible honor.
You used the word humble here, and I saw part of your speech that you gave out there, and that came up a lot in your speech as well. Was that a humbling feeling when you have that honor thrown on you?
Yeah, because it's never your aim, especially in a team sport. You're just so focused on your teammates, delivering a pass, catching a pass, finishing a play, apologizing for a mistake, not letting each other down, not letting your coaches down, not letting your fan base down. The individual side of basketball, at least from my purview, it really did not enter my equation much. So that was very personal, and it was, I just thought about my coaches. I thought about my teammates the entire time, up there and out there.
All right, well, let's move on. I know you want to dwell on that, so we'll move on to your team here. We talked about the first victory of this 5-game winning streak, Queens, the last time we were together. Since then, 4 straight. Let's go back and kind of do them in order. The one after Queens, Hofstra, an overtime victory there, 81-77 in overtime. Kind of stole that one late, if you will. They missed a late free throw, and you guys were able to come out and pull out a win.
Yeah, it just goes to show you and why humility is so important. And we're fighting for the hearts and the minds of our guys every day. And if Estrada makes a free throw, the chance of us winning that game with 3 seconds is very low. He didn't, and we were thankful that we were able to pull out the victory in overtime. But the mindset of the guys the next day is to not watch that film or go into the next practice feeling like you're very close to losing that game. And it goes both ways. Games we could have won that we did lose. So the focus after a win that we thought was pretty good was quickly on to glad we did get the win, but we need to get better.
And the next game you moved on was Toledo, and again a high octane offense that you guys were able to slow down and end up winning that game 80-73. I thought at that point, one of the more complete games you guys had played up to that time.
Yeah, I agree. We didn't get off to a great start, as I remember. I know Josh was in some foul trouble, but it was the beauty of our depth, especially having 3 really good post guys. Malik gave us great minutes and energy and efficiency off the bench that game, a team that was scoring a lot of points. I mean, 90 or high 80s, 90 points a game, maybe one of the most efficient offenses in the country, with 2 20-point-a-game guys, Ray J. Dennis and Shoemate. Our group did a really good job and came out with the win against a team that we think is going to contend in the MAC.
Are you finding now that your team is starting to kind of embrace that identity of being a really good lockdown defensive team? Because as we talk about some of these games, it's going to be apparent that the defense is starting to carry you guys in certain stretches.
Yeah, we're finding our game. I talked about that with the team recently. Steve Clifford had a great post-gamer the other night. The Hornets had a loss, and he was talking about the best teams at the end of the season. They have a game, and they know their game. Yeah, the offense, and the crazy thing, this is a side topic, but college basketball, you play with a different ball every game. You know, so you're varying balls, different courts, lighting, backdrops, so many things that could affect your offensive game. You know, offensively, focus on taking care of the ball and your shot selection, but you can rev yourself up to have a good night defensively every night. You should never have an off night defensively. And I feel like our guys have really taken that to heart. You know, we'll get to it, but, you know, our last two games, we didn't hit our marks offensively. Our last game, we hit 0 of our goals offensively. We hit all 5 of our goals defensively. And your defense travels, your defense wins championships. If you look at KenPom, you know, on a year in and year out basis, if you look at the top 20 offensive teams, there are some teams sprinkled in there that are really bad. They have bad results. If you look at the top 20 defenses in the country, they're all perennial NCAA tournament teams and programs.
Talk about the game right before the exam break. University of Maryland Eastern Shore, 67-54 win. And again, that one it just had that feel to me of guys that were ready to be done with the semester and getting ready to go. And it took a while for them to get into it, and credit Maryland Eastern Shore for that as well, but you guys ultimately walked away from them in the second half.
Maybe our second group. I don't think our starters were. I thought our starters were terrific.
Okay.
It's levels to it, right? It's explaining to your team, you know, how much you need to respect a team and how tough a team is and how competitive a team is. And there's delivering the message. There's your first group going out there and executing on the deliverables. And then the next level is your young guys, particularly, watching your team get out to a 12-0 start and not having an immature mindset like, oh, this is going to be an easy-peasy game. It's, you know, it's a maturity that's the final step. We were up 12-0. There was a big letdown that game, but our first group came out there and they stymied the Tide and did a really good job pulling away, I think, a 19-2 run in the second half, and VJ Bailey scored his 1,000th point.
And we'll get to Bailey and also Josh getting his 1,000th point as well, and that brings us to Tulane. A 62-56 win just a couple days ago, and this, I talked about Toledo being a very good team effort as far as offense and defense both. This, I thought, was by far the best defensive effort, as Tulane was a team that came in averaging 80 points a contest. You hold them 24 points below their average. And I thought Ronald Polite played one of his best defensive games of the year on their big leading scorer. But he had help. Even when he was getting beat off the dribble, getting caught on screen, he was doing enough to funnel guys towards the help. I thought Ronald played excellent on that game Saturday.
I mean, I think Ronald's been great every single game, outside of the Boston College game when he was injured. But he did. He was phenomenal. And the guys, I commended them today as we scrubbed Tulane. When I say scrubbed, we watched the video and cleaned up things and put it in the past. But they did exactly what we talked about all week. 10 days off, new venue, hockey arena ice underneath it. It's so focus in on your defense. Lock into your defense. It will be enough. And generally that will generate your offense. And we were not good in the first half offensively in the middle portion. I thought we started the game okay offensively, but our defense held us around. And in the second half, our offense, when we didn't kick the ball into the stands or give it to them, we were really good. Shot 57% in the second half offensively.
Yeah, I think you guys were 8 of 15 inside the arc and 8 of 15 outside the arc, if my memory serves, in the second half. And Victor got it going a little bit there in the second half, hitting threes. And then Devontae Gaines and Josh Oduro both hit big threes late in that contest.
They did. Josh especially, he made a big three late in the game in the exact same spot that Deshaun Schwartz made a big three in that same event, in that same arena 2 years ago against Dayton. You could kind of superimpose those two shots. It's pretty cool. Josh made a huge three to put it away and score his 1,000th point and ticket as well.
It was interesting because it gets lost, I think, in, again, Victor having his 19 points and Josh having another great game. But Tavon Cooper had one of the quietest near triple doubles I think I've ever seen. 8 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I looked at the stat sheet at the end of the game and I went, I don't remember him being everywhere, but clearly he was, because you don't get 7 rebounds by not being on the defensive end. You don't get 7 assists. Guys have to make shots, but you still got to find them.
Yeah, no, he's rock solid. The one assist that really sticks out to me is the one to Josh at the end, and we work on it every day. We're going to keep getting better at it. It's when you do get in the paint, when you're in traffic, when guys are swarming and slapping, just knowing that you have 4.5 seconds. You have 4.5 seconds after you pick your dribble up while you're being closely guarded to make a safe exit pass. And we just got to get our guys more comfortable, not rushing in those moments, taking the time. You know, I'd rather a 5-second violation, a 3-second violation, more than a live ball turnover in those instances.
You had talked about it pregame with me about trying to keep Tulane from getting out in transition. That was a worry for you guys. You actually outscored them in fast break points. You kind of took advantage of them being a little bit too aggressive in trying to get to the glass or turning their turnovers into runouts.
Well, we were fortunate that our turnovers were a lot of time of the dead ball variety, charges, the ball going out of bounds. So we got to get our defense that was playing really well that night set. And again, if we didn't turn it over, we scored. We were scoring the ball, so our transition defense was really good.
Talk about Victor going over 1,000 points against University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Then Josh does it the following game against Tulane. Pretty nice moments, and you're a guy who scored 1,000 points in your college career. When you look back on that, and these guys will do that when their careers are done, how special is that to be able to do it in college?
It's awesome. I mean, I said it after the game. It puts those guys in an elite group. For most programs, it's around 30 guys, 35 guys that have reached 1,000. And honestly, is it around that at Mason? I don't know.
It's 40.
Okay.
Yeah, 40.
Well, that's impressive, actually. We had 100 more years of basketball at Missouri than Mason, and it's only like 30 guys. So it's been a lot of bucket getters at George Mason. But it's really cool. It shows, one, your availability. Availability is the best ability, and just the continued growth in their games. It's one thing to get started early in your career, but as you get older and you're marked as a scorer, to be game planned against and to still have good scoring nights is a 100% testament to these guys.
I think one of the coolest things was seeing the video of the guys, their teammates, being excited for them, scoring the 1,000 points, and kind of gathering around and celebrating with them. That's always a nice moment.
Yeah, it is awesome. VJ got his before we ate our pregame meal, so his wasn't video recorded, but Josh's was caught on camera, and it was a really good, cool scene.
While you guys were in Chicago, you did something which I was very happy to be a part of, and I thought it was very cool. Is the night before, Friday night, had a dinner, and you brought the team and everybody together, and then afterwards had kind of a question and answer with some of the biggest names in business from all different places in business, all different varieties, all different backgrounds. Talk about why that was so important to you, to have your players in front of these business people, to basically tell them, hey, this is why you being a part of a Division I athletic team is going to help you down the road, and why that's important.
It was great. The idea was birthed having dinner in Arlington with Chris Durlack and John Gotti, both partners at Purple Strategies. And, it was an idea that I had and I want to continue to do. It's, NIL is great, from a dollars and cents standpoint, but the connections is what I really appreciate, and I think there's untapped value in. And we're always trying to inspire our guys, as athletes, as teammates, as players, but also inspire them to start thinking about their career when the ball stops bouncing. You can have a 20-year NBA career, right? And you're going to have a lot of years to live after that. And what are you going to do? And it was a chance to get those guys thinking outside of basketball. We had a C-level executive from Indivior, the head of branding and marketing at Purple Strategies. We had a partner at Sidley Austin, Chicago, office. We had the co-head of basketball from CAA Sports. We had the chief marketing officer from McDonald's. And they were just talking to their guys about, one, what they do, you know, what they look for and who they hire. And it was an opportunity for our guys to build some connections, you know, with people that can help them in their lives long after Mason. And it's something we'll continue to do each year. And it was as good as anything I've been a part of since being in sport.
I thought it was interesting to hear there are a couple of guys up there that had played Division I sports. One, I think, was tennis. Another one was basketball. But it was just interesting. The guys had asked some questions, and they all went back to their kind of athletic background to say, oh, well, in this challenge in my business career, I drew on what I learned as an athlete coming up.
It's a great advantage. You know, when you talk about I mean, our guys, student athletes outperform academically non-student athletes. Our guys held a team GPA of 3.0. What they have to do from a time commitment standpoint, with a commitment to their bodies, to perform in high stress moments, to perform on a team, to receive intense coaching, to receive, social media hate, to be dependent on. It's so many things and values that will carry them in life. And that's a pretty consistent message. The things that we do on a daily basis to encourage discipline and accountability and a tough mindset is going to help them be fathers and husbands and leaders. And you're right, those executives of some of the best companies in the world echo those sentiments.
When you look at what was taught, learned, exchanged in that meeting, is there anything that you think your team will take away that will apply for the next 3-4 months of this season?
I do. So TJ Graham's our director of basketball operations. He's getting his doctorate from UVA right now. And after it got done, he was like, a big part of his dissertation is saying how, the influence coaches have on their players. And what we say matters, right? And he said that it's a big influence of when you take that influence and your message outside of the sport into life. And the value of hearing that message about life and career from me was the importance of it and the gravity of it on them. That's what his research says. What I took from it was this. All we talk to our guys about is being selfless. Taking yourself out of the equation. We had an acronym at Tennessee, INAM, ENAM. It's not about me. Selflessness. Don't think about me. Be a great passer. Congratulate your teammate. No me. No I. No I. No I. These leaders were talking about, when they're making hires, how important fit is, how important you work in a team environment, how important selflessness is. The chief global impact officer from Indivior said that hiring people that don't take themselves too seriously was really important to her. So humility. So we're talking about it on a collegiate team level. These executives are talking about it from a hiring standpoint. And then at the end, the former CMO of McDonald's, who is on faculty at Northwestern, Josh brought up a point, and he said that the exact quote Josh said was, if you can find someone that has a why, you can conquer any how. I think that was his quote or something or the other. And he asked what their why was. And one of Neil Golden was his name. Neil said his why was to learn and to serve. To serve. So his chief marketing officer days are over. He's now faculty, and his main ethos in life is to give back, is to serve. And it was a good message, I think, that the guys resonated with. At this stage of your life, at the next stage of your life, at the next stage of your life, humility and selflessness and giving, and it's not about me, is everything. And that's hopefully, I think that's what they took away. That's what I took away from it.
It's interesting you talk about how the business people talk about fit and culture and things. And as I'm sitting there listening to it, all that's going through my head is this sounds like recruiting of bringing guys in. They have to fit what you're doing, with this team. And they have to fit not only with you guys, but with the people that they're playing with.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said we don't, recruit just a smorgasbord of talent. We're recruiting pieces, that we think will fit into a puzzle that is hopefully one day a championship picture.
All right, we're going to take a break. I'm going to let you take a side so we can bring on Josh here real quick. But we want to thank the folks at the Capitol Ale House, the official host site for the Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Kim English. Only a mile and a half from Eagle Bank Arena, Capitol Ale House has local Virginia-inspired dishes and the largest selection of Virginia-brewed craft beer available with 100 taps there, Virginia's beer authority here in Mason Nation. Welcome here to the table, the senior forward for the George Mason Patriots, Josh Oduro. Josh, first off, appreciate you stopping by. We were just talking to Coach English about that dinner that you had in Chicago, and we'll get to the basketball stuff here in a bit, but he referenced a question that you asked. I think it was one of the last questions of the Q&A that we did. What did you take away from hearing all those business leaders talk to you and your teammates about how they go about hiring, how they go about running their day-to-day businesses?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing that I thought to myself is it's just like basketball. And I guess that was kind of the ethos that I was getting the entire night. The lessons that we're learning, the way that we're supposed to perform out on the court, it really translates to everything. And are you putting in the work in? Are you making yourself good enough so you have the ability? But not just that, are you being a good teammate? Are you being a good coworker? Are you being a good classmate? That's where you can fit in any setting that you can put yourself into. And then on top of that, there's the little things. I remember when I asked that question, Neil Goodman, the person that worked at McDonald's, he told me that his whole the whole reason his whole why is just to learn and to serve. And I believe when you do things like that, it'll carry you far. And it might not be rewarding in the short run, but living your life like that, whether you're being a basketball player or working at McDonald's, it'll carry you far.
Now, you've jumped into kind of a team leadership role here this year, again, your fourth year here at Mason. But not only that, you were kind of nominated, elected the chair of the Patriot Nation Collective, the NIL Collective, for you and your teammates. How big of a deal was that for to feel your teammates saying, hey, Josh, we know that you've been at the forefront of this. We want you to kind of be our spokesperson for this, to be in charge of how this is all going to work?
Yeah, I have immense love for all my teammates. They really have my back through all the ups and all the downs. And I think it was really nice and it was cool that we were able to do this, the Patriot Collective. NIL has been something that a lot of players before me weren't able to enjoy. And I really want to say thank you to Kathy and to Chris and all the people who came together to put this collective for us. And with that, we've been able to do a lot of fun things. And I remember you were talking to Coach earlier about him going to Missouri. And we worked together and we gave him a little poster just to congratulate him. So I'm really excited with the work we're doing with the collective, and I'm excited to see how far it can go.
When you look at some of the things, and I'm sure you probably read some of the stories about how NIL is working at other places, and I think maybe it's more in football than necessarily college basketball, but you see where there's jealousy. There's some things that some people are doing NIL that are promised, and then it falls through, and there's problems with that. You guys have kind of taken it as an approach as a team, so there isn't going to be necessarily that one guy's doing all this and the guys that are only playing 3-4 minutes a game aren't getting the same thing. You've brought everybody together and said, hey, if we're going to do this, yes, there may be separate entities for individuals, but we're going to do something as a team as well.
Yeah, I love that. Like, we're a family. I remember, I think it was yesterday that we had a little Christmas dinner, and it was everyone in the collective. And it was really like a wonderful experience. It felt not like a business meeting, but more like a family. And we had like little white elephant gifts, and it was really fun. And so that kind of environment, it's not something that you can find everywhere. And so I'm really happy with the work we're doing. I'm happy for the bonds that we're forming through this NIL. I feel like we're doing it right.
What'd you end up with for your white elephant gift? Do you remember?
I got some gift cards. I'm gonna be on Amazon after this.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's good stuff. All right, so you played locally at PVI your last couple of years, and then decided to stay here at Mason locally. What was the process of you being recruited? If you can remember, it's been 4 years now, obviously, but to decide to stay, because so many times we see local kids that just say, you know what, I want to get out of the area, I want to go and explore and everything, but you chose to stay here. What was it about staying local?
It really wasn't the locality of George Mason. For me, as a basketball player and as a student, I've always wanted to get better at whatever I was doing. And initially with Dave Paulson and the school itself, it felt like a really good spot for me in order to keep getting better. I pride myself on my player development, and so that's the reason why I decided to stay. And that kind of lent itself into the second time. I was a sophomore. After COVID, we all had an opportunity to leave, and when Kim came in, I was always open to Mason, but I wasn't as much as I was until I met him. And just the message that he had and the plan for his team and his plan for me, I really felt that it embodied what I wanted to do as a basketball player.
Now, playing at PVI, obviously in the WCAC, one of the best high school basketball conferences in the country, and I saw a nice little meeting between you and Casey Morsell, who plays for NC State. I think it's cool. It must be nice to, when you travel or you go places and you run into, if we're at like the tournament, say in the Virgin Islands or wherever it is, you probably run into guys that you played against or with in the WCAC all the time. It's got to be a pretty cool feeling to walk in and be like, oh yeah, I know a couple of these guys from this school.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Casey's my guy. We played on the same AAU team, and then we competed against each other in the WCAC. So that's really fun when I saw him down in Chicago. And then on top of that, I was able to see Charles Thompson, who plays at Towson. And so I think it's really fun. We have like a brotherhood almost of players who have been in this area and play at a high level. So
yeah, you guys know. I mean, you kind of have that branding of, hey, we played in probably the best conference in the country, or one of them anyway. I mean, it's a pretty proud thing to have. We talked about it with Coach English, you scoring your 1,000th point against Tulane. It's got to feel special to do it all at the same school. And the reaction of your teammates after the game in the locker room, talk to me about that. That's a pretty cool moment.
Man, I love it. And like I said earlier, I really love my teammates. And like, I'm a bigger player. I'm a big, when I'm out on the court, so I can't score not 1 point without any of my teammates. They have to pass me the ball. They set me up for a lot of dump-offs, and most of my baskets are assisted. So not only receiving that love on the court, but receiving it off the court when I achieve something like that, it really means a lot. And so, yeah, that's what I got.
It's a nice moment.
Yeah.
I want to take you back to the Tulane game and what was maybe not such a quite good moment for you, but you redeemed yourself. About a minute and a half into the second half, you came down in a trail spot and took what I would have called an ill-advised three. I think your coaches may have had some other choice words other than ill-advised three. You came out, subbed out, they had a talk with you, but then you hit the big one with under 2 minutes to go or so in the game to put Mason up 57-52. Talk to me about, because I think people watching the game or hearing the game or following things, when they see something like that happen, they may not understand why you came out. But how do you have to readjust your mindset to say, okay, that's just one shot in one moment. I've still got 18 more minutes to play and my team needs me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the mindset going into games is huge. I mean, game plans from teams, maybe different calls from refs, and taking shots that might be ill-advised, as you put it. But just making sure that you're focused on the goal. And the goal of that game was to win and what we had to do. And it wasn't so much the three, but it was getting stops on defense, rebounding, making sure that we're staying connected on the court. And finding yourself back in all that, it allows things like that three to happen.
How much communication is there? And I think people that maybe sit down front, I'm fortunate enough that I get to be right there, and especially the Tulane game. I was literally right behind Coach English for the entire game and could hear the bench. But how much communication goes on when you guys are on defense? Because the chatter, if you just stop and listen to the conversations that are going on, it's fascinating to hear five guys all communicating, but maybe saying different things, but everybody being able to be on the same page. And there were times in that Tulane game where you guys were so locked in that it was a lot of fun to watch, and again, to hear that chatter that you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say for the number one prerequisite to playing defense is just playing hard. But then on top of that, we have our own language where we're talking on the court, whether we're calling like goalie, which is our help side, or what gap we're in, communicating with our teammates. So you have to be talking the whole possession, and if you're not, you're going to be finding yourself like a play behind. And so just being out there on the court, you have to be a chatterbox. And then not just that, but also the communication that happens after plays, during dead balls, or even on the bench. During that Tulane game, after that ill-advised three, Malik came up to me and he kind of helped me get my mind focused back into the game and making sure that I'm focused on the right things. And so it's things like that, making sure that you're not just talking to your teammate, but communicating that really amplifies us.
You wear number 13 for Mason. You wore number 12, if I remember correctly, at PVI. You wore 22 with Team Takeover for your AAU team. Is there any story behind any of those numbers? Most guys try to wear the same number all the way through. You've had a variety of them. Is the number just not significant to you, or what was the reasoning behind these?
So I wore the number 12. Has always been my number, and I wore it because when I first started watching basketball, I seen Dwight Howard play, and I thought he was great, and so I wore that. Then when I came to Mason, A.J. Wilson had 12, and so I couldn't wear it, so I was just like, you know what, I'll go with one number higher, and went with 13. And yeah, 22 wasn't ever really a number. That was just a jersey.
Just a jersey for the AAU. Did you ever consider, because I know there have been guys, and there have been guys that have played at Mason that have worn a couple of different numbers. Did you ever consider going back to 12, or you kind of said, I made 13 my own, I'm just going to keep it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thoughts I had about it. Just, I made it my own, I'm going to keep it. And like A.J. Wilson had a great legacy here, one of the all-time greats. And for me, it was keeping the same number and trying to make sure that I can be as great as I can be and not try to change from that.
I'm going to ask you some questions about some of your teammates here. Funniest guy on the team, in your opinion?
I'll probably say Saquon.
Saquon? Mm-hmm. Is he also probably the guy that's most likely to pull any kind of practical joke or prank? Does that go along with it, or is there somebody else who's kind of sneaky that you got to keep an eye on because you never know what they're up to?
Nah, prank, I would probably say Malik.
Is any stories behind that, or is that all we're going to keep that within the team and not talk about? I mean, is there any good ones? We'll keep that one with the team. Fair enough. Who's the most serious guy on the team?
Most serious guy on the team? I would probably say we have some serious people on the team. It's probably between Chase or Davon.
Okay. Years from now, you have a daughter. Let's say you get married or whatever, have a daughter. Is there somebody that you look at today that you're like, you know what, if my daughter were to date a guy like this, one of my old teammates, not necessarily him, but somebody like him, who would you look at and say, yeah, I'd be okay if this person walked through the door and my daughter was dating him?
Yeah, I don't even think about that one. That's Chase.
Chase? Okay, easy enough, yeah. Easy enough. What's it like having your younger brother on the team? I'm sure you've been asked that a million times, but has it been fun? Has it been irritating? I know as myself as a younger brother, I can imagine that it would be irritating to have to my older sibling if I was, on the same team as them or in the same workplace as them or whatever. How has it been with Peter?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. He can be really irritating. No one can really get under your skin like the person that you're closest with.
Sure.
And growing up, that's always been my best friend. So really, at the end of the day, I love having him here, and I love the opportunity to go at him every day in practice. And he really brings out the best of me, and I bring out the best of him. So I love that he's here.
Awesome. You guys have won 5 in a row after you got back from the Virgin Islands in the 3-game losing streak. In your mind, what's been the difference from the 3 games there to now? Obviously, playing at home has helped, but you guys had probably one of your best defensive games, if not the best defensive game of the season, just a couple days ago on Saturday. What, in your mind, as a team leader and a guy that's been around for this long, what's been the difference between then and this 5-game winning streak?
Yeah, I would probably say that I would say this year is just our mindset. We really have a growth mindset. And so coming back home from the Virgin Islands, like after losing that third game, like it was kind of crushing and everyone was really upset about that. But when we got home, it wasn't really sulking in that and just really like, what can we do to be better individually and as a team? And we sat down, had a lot of talks, making sure that we're really emphasizing our defense. And so since then, like we take everything with a grain of salt, whether it's a win or a loss. How can we improve? And so, like when we won in Chicago, we were happy for that day, but then when the plane touched down, we're now focused on what we can do to be even better.
What was it like playing in an arena there in Chicago at the United Center that's got so much history? Obviously, we know about Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, and all the titles there. Do you take it when you guys go to shoot around that morning? Do you stop at any point and take it all in, or is it just, hey, this is just another arena that we've played in?
I'd like to say it's just another arena, but there's just moments where you really get to appreciate the greatness. I remember when Handy's warming us up in the hallway before the game, just had an opportunity to look over and we see some of the retired jerseys on the Bulls locker room that was next to ours. And you see Michael Jordan, you see Scottie Pippen and others. And so, like, you really, like, get to step back and kind of bask in the awe of it. And so that was really cool. And knowing that, like, greats have really played here before. Coach English has a saying, every time we go on the road, this is a great shooter's gym. And when we were in the Chicago Bulls arena, it really was a great shooter's gym. So that was exciting.
All right, last thing for you. Well, a couple more. When you look at the dinner back in Chicago, we'll go back to that for a second. When you look at what's coming after you're done with basketball, do you look at those people that were up there and say, you know what, I could see myself doing that? Did you take lessons from them that kind of maybe inspired you? Because I'm sure as a 21, 22-year-old, you're not thinking how quickly the basketball career will come to an end. Even this Coach English, you can play 20 years in the NBA. That's still leaving you with probably half your lifetime or more to have to do something with your life. Have you thought about what life may be like after basketball?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in my mind about what I'm going to do after basketball, but I'd say the number one takeaway that I got from that dinner and that sit down and talking to all of these industry greats is really just like right now in this time in our life, it's time to like build ourselves up. And that's just with our habits and the way we approach whatever we're doing. And there was really a diverse group of people on that panel. And they all did different things, but they all had very similar ways of approaching what they did. And so just making sure that we can take that and start incorporating that into our life, and not just basketball, but just who we are as people. It'll make us successful in whatever ventures we take.
All right, last thing for you. Other than the rack and those type of things, where's your favorite place on Mason, on campus? Where do you, if Josh needs to go and get away, where's your favorite spot?
You said other than?
Other than the basketball, yeah. Outside of basketball, what's your favorite spot at Mason? If you just need to go away and get away from things.
I guess I would say the Johnson Center. I like it there. You go higher up, it gets quieter. But, I mean, I would say EBA really is my spot. I know late at night when there's nothing going on and it's just dead quiet, I can get into the gym and maybe if I'm not like really working out, I can just like shoot free throws or dribble the ball with some music in the background. It's a really nice experience.
All right, I'm going to give you one more. This is from some of the fans out there. What are you most proud of? And this is Stanley has a question for you, Josh. What are you most proud of, and how much you've grown on and off the court in your 4 years here at Mason?
I would probably say just like personally growing, kind of breaking out of my shell a little bit, more reserved, more quiet, and this is a really nice community that we have here for George Mason basketball. And they really coaxed that out of me a little bit. I know I was joking with Miss McKay the other night. Like it's crazy how much I've grown since being a freshman. So That's probably what I'm most proud of.
I'd have to agree with that. We were talking about when we decided that we were going to have you come on and be the guest, and I said, well, it's a good thing Josh is a senior. He would not have done this 2 or 3 years ago. So it's a pleasure to have you, Josh. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. You're off the hot seat. Go and enjoy the rest of the night. I'd like to thank the Capitol Ale House, the official host site for the Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Kim English. Only a mile and a half from Eagle Bank Arena, Capitol Ale House has local Virginia-inspired dishes and the largest selection of Virginia-brewed craft beers available, with 100 taps there, Virginia's beer authority in Mason Nation. And we welcome back head coach Kim English here as we start to wrap up this edition of the Kim English Coaches Show. Coach, 2 games coming up this week. We'll start with Wednesday, a road game against former CAA conference mate. Now we've both gone our separate ways. We're in the A-10. I think they're now in the Sun Belt after they moved on from Conference USA, I believe it was last year. Came into Eagle Bank last year. You guys were pretty beat up, if I remember correctly, that game last December. They came out with a 10-point victory, but they're an entirely different team. Of the 60 points they scored that game, there's only 11 that they have on their roster back from last year. Talk to me about what you've seen from the Monarchs coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty consistent of what Jeff Jones' teams have been like, forever. They're tough, they're physical, they run good offense, they know what they want. Even though it's a new team, besides Mekhi Long, pretty much. But Chauncey Jenkins, a new kid they have in, is very talented. He's their leading scorer, 30 minutes a game off the bench. Ben Stanley, a very physical, strong inside guy. But they are in the exact same mold as the team they had last year. Will be a great game for us. We understand the history of this rivalry, being both from the state of Virginia. Really excited to get a chance to play on the road.
So what you're saying is it's going to be a typical Old Dominion type team, probably another rock fight, as they've been for so many years. It's always seemed to be a really good defensive team down there.
Really good on defense and know what they want on offense.
Coppin State then on Friday, the last home game before the Christmas break. Always good to get one in right before the holiday, and it's, I believe, a 3 o'clock tip time for you guys on Friday.
I don't know the tip time yet. I'm locked into Old Dominion. I think it's at
4 o'clock. Sorry, 4
o'clock. Yeah, it'll get us to 13 non-conference games. Coppin State, and again, like I said, the immense amount of respect I have for teams in the MEAC conference. They travel all over the country in the non-conference, funding their athletic departments. It's a tremendous amount of toughness that is required. They, took Georgetown to overtime. They had some really good wins. Mount St. Mary's, another one that slips my mind right now. A very talented guard, Sam Sessoms, who's one of the leading scorers in the country. He played in the Big Ten last season at Penn State. He is as good as any point guard, as we'll see all season. We actually played against him last year in a preseason secret scrimmage against Penn State, and he actually made a game-winning layup against us. So we know how good he is and how good they are. Really good offensive team.
Before we get to the questions from the audience, holiday plans for you after that game on Friday?
No, just celebrate Christmas with my girls and watching film of Richmond.
Are you a guy who does presents Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? How's that?
Christmas Day for my girls. I'll give my staff gifts if we win on the 23rd.
Fair enough. All right, here are some questions from the audience.
I'm serious, though. I'm serious.
Hopefully they're watching and they will do a little bit more prep so they can get their gift.
We'll have receipts.
Tony wants to know what changes with your approach, if anything, is coming up now that we're getting close to conference play. We're only about 12, 13 days away.
Nothing changes. I'd say that I am beginning to keep an eye on A-10 games a little bit more. When I watch, again, I've said it a bunch, I'm off social media right now. So I spend a lot of time, obviously, preparing for our games, but watching games around the country. I've taken a liking to this Purdue team, and I've always followed Kansas closely. But now I'm starting to watch some more A-10 games. Siena and Bonnie's and St. Joe's and Sacred Heart are on tonight. Got to get a look at Richmond because they played Toledo, so that's our opener. So I guess that's the only difference is in my spare time, I'm starting to watch A-10 basketball as opposed to 2-3 weeks ago. I was pretty much just following A-10 scores.
Yeah, just looking at scores. Another question about conference play. This one from Taylor wants to know, have you zeroed in on a rotation going into conference play, and what are your expectations for the team when conference play rolls around? Everybody's excited about the A-10 season getting started.
Yeah, our rotation is fluid. Guys are always, obviously we have our top 6 or 7 or 8-ish, but that 9th, 10 guy, you're always competing. Like, whoever's out of the rotation is fighting to get in it. And who's ever in it on the back end is a couple of bad games away from being out of it. I'm very open and honest about that, with our guys. And right now, especially with the young guys, they're going to get their minutes by producing on the defensive end of the court. And, that was a great example of that in Chicago. I didn't overreact to shot selection. I didn't overreact to turnovers, but I have zero tolerance for egregious defensive miscues right now. So you're going to get in the game. You're going to play hard. You're going to execute the things that we know translates to winning defensively. So, again, I've always said it. Your minutes are up to you, not me. Your minutes are up to you.
This is a nice time of year. The guys are done with exams for the fall semester, kind of have a break. The students have all gone home. Other students are off campus. So they kind of have the opportunity to bond and blend together a little bit over these next couple of weeks and really dig in basketball-wise.
Yeah, well, there's no school, which is, great for that free time. They can be together in the dorms, in the apartments. But for me, it's, and my message to the guys is it's kind of like a pseudo off season, as in you can really, rededicate more time to your game that you don't have when you're in class, study hall, practice, class, study hall. Now there's one of our amazing academic coordinators, Megan Goforth, is in the stands. So there's not as much study hall right now. So you can now rededicate some of that time to your individual game, to getting with the coach and watching individual film. Hitting our free throw goals every day and charting those numbers.
When you look at the first 11 games of this season, from tip-off game 1 against Auburn to now finishing out against Tulane on Saturday, is there one or two spots where you look at it and say, hey, you know what, we've made progress here. I'm happy with the progress we've made. Not satisfied, but happy with the progress.
Every single game, there's things I took away from it that I was very excited about. Every single game from Auburn. Every single game I've taken away something we could do better. Just Auburn, it was exactly what you want to know. Right off the bat, where are we? Where must we improve? And you do it. And you want to play quality opponents. Like I've said it, I don't know if I said it on here, like you don't get anywhere in college basketball by scheduling 12 wins in the non-conference.
Right.
You schedule quality opponents. You schedule top 100 opponents. You go and play quality road games. In the Virgin Islands, we were unlucky. We didn't play well, and 2, we lost our starting point guard. We didn't have Ronald Polite for 2 games, and he was injured for 1 of them. We lost 3 of those games. Devin Dinkins, Saquon Singleton got some very valuable minutes in those games. Lessons learned in those games. Tulane beat Buffalo by 30. Tulane beat a team that beat us by 30. And it just goes to show you the mindset of kids. I know that the Tulane kids thought, oh, this team Buffalo beat. Right? Our guys, it doesn't enter their mind or train of thought at all. We are very singular every single day. It's a new opportunity to improve, get better. Today's film session in practice felt a lot like it would if we would have lost to Tulane. Because truthfully, that's a growth mindset. Josh alluded to it. That's a growth mindset. We're just trying to get better every single day.
Are you seeing that with the guys on the team as well, not only from the coaching staff, but are you seeing it from guys that are starting to hold their teammates accountable? That was one of the things when you first came in, your introductory press conference, that you said, hey, I want guys that are going to hold their teammates accountable. Are you starting to see that from the leaders of this team?
We are. I mean, I think the true essence of it, any teacher, any leader, is I want to step back. I want to have taught. I want to have led so much. They know exactly what the expectation and the standard is. Like a few times in the last game, Ronald Polite was telling me to calm down. He was like, I'm going to do something, and he's looking at me like, calm down. So it's happening. You know, they are starting to coach each other, hold each other accountable. I tell them, basketball coaches have been telling their players to box out since the beginning of time.
Right.
Like every single basketball coach has told his players to box out. Players still don't box out, right? So I think the only way to remedy that is having those players tell each other to box out, because I think it just matters a little bit more. Your player-led teams are better than coach-led teams.
And that goes back to the very first thing we talked about, you going into the Hall of Fame, your teammates, and being accountable and having that bond with those guys, that they have to be the ones that hold each other accountable, because ultimately 10, 15, 20 years from now, when they all get back together, the stories are going to be about them playing the games, and they're not going to necessarily talk about what the coaches said. It's going to be what the players said in the locker room, in the dorm room, on the bus.
Inspiration. I mean, just trying to inspire those guys to lead and become the best versions of themselves.
I think it's a great way to leave it for this show. Coach, thank you as always for stopping by. We will see you Wednesday at Old Dominion. Hopefully some of you will make the trip as well. If not, we will see you Friday at Eagle Bank Arena as the Patriots take on Coppin State on Friday. So, in fact, if you want to get tickets, Mason fans, you can come out and rock with us at Eagle Bank Arena when the Patriots return home on December 23rd against Coppin State. All ticket offerings are available, including 3-game mini plans starting at just $24 and single-game tickets as low as $10. For more information or to purchase tickets, call the ticket office at 703-993-3270. Once again, we want to thank the Capitol Ale House, the official host site for the Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Kim English, only a mile and a half from Eagle Bank Arena. Capitol Ale House has local Virginia-inspired dishes and the largest selection of Virginia-brewed craft beer available with 100 taps there, Virginia's beer authority in Mason Nation. Thanks for joining us this evening. And again, we hope to see you all out Friday at Eagle Bank Arena as the Patriots take on Coppin State.